Part 5. Restarting the Myth. Author, Feng Chao Huang. Chapter 41. Wayne's brain was probably crazy. He had been studying theoretical knowledge and meditating for a long time, which drained all his energy. He couldn't blurt out the cup sizes of the three beauties as he did before. He had to think for 25 seconds. Except for eating, drinking, defecating, urinating and sleeping, Wayne spent the rest of his time studying. In order to catch up with those geniuses, he even compressed his sleeping time. He only maintained basic sleep needs every day and started studying as soon as he opened his eyes. It is conceivable that he was so busy that even the beautiful girls were blurred in his memory, so how could he remember who Hood was? At first glance, I thought someone's wife came to the door. Come to think of it, it's true. The Royal Navy of Windsor does have a HMS Hood battleship in service. When Wayne returned to the big house, Hood's phone had been hung up. He dialed the number written down by the housekeeper and quickly got in touch with the other party. Hood seemed to have been waiting by the phone. Hood, what's up? Mr. Wayne, Wesley is missing, and I found myself being followed. In order to avoid causing you trouble, I didn't visit you directly. Hood's voice was hoarse, and his fatigue was hard to hide between the lines. He forced himself to tell about his investigation of the geocentric church, and told Wayne the location of the investigation report, hoping that Wayne would do him a favor and send someone to send the investigation report back to London. Hood was followed and could not leave Enroard Town with the report. He wanted to contact the official intelligence agency, but because Wesley was missing, he could not find the contact client, so he went to the sheriff. Forget it, don't hurt anyone. Wayne is different. With the halo of the Landau family, Hood is a powerful figure who does not show off. The two detectives commented on Wayne in this way. His keen observation and super reasoning ability, coupled with his low-key and calm temperament, are definitely the next generation of heirs cultivated by the Landau family. Hood firmly believed that Wayne had a huge network of contacts in London, and he was in and out of the upper class and was on good terms with the dignitaries. If he asked Wayne to send out the information, he would definitely be able to contact the client as soon as possible. Wayne didn't know what Hood was thinking. Except for his name, he couldn't find anything in common with the upper class. He was very curious about the investigation report and wanted to get a glimpse of the truth about the Lord of the Void. After a moment of hesitation, he nodded and agreed to send the report to London. At the same time, he warned Hood to find a place to hide as soon as possible, wait patiently for the arrival of the special person from London, and not to show up during this period. Hood did not agree, saying that he was willing to attract attention for Wayne, and at the same time find the missing Wesley to prevent him from encountering an accident. After that, Hood hung up the phone. When Wayne called again, no one answered. You are so brave. You really have the demeanor of a legendary investigator. Wayne raised his eyebrows and asked the butler to send someone to the hiding place to bring back the investigation report. He asked for a smart one so that he would not be followed. The premise of helping is that it does not harm one's own interests. The villa is very safe and it is very suitable for cultivation without being disturbed. Wayne does not want to break this tranquility. The butler bowed and stepped back, asking one of the four maids to drive there. The villa carries many good memories. Mr. Landau attaches great importance to it. He not only arranges the trusted FLA as the butler, but also dispatches 4 extraordinary maids to serve as guards. They come from the army and each of them has special skills. 30 minutes later, the maid brought back the investigation documents and nodded to butler FLA. Confirm that no one is following. FLA opened the report and confirmed that there were no traps or small mechanisms, and then handed it to Wayne. So professional. Wayne liked FLA so much that he would call him perfect. After taking the document, he glanced through it roughly and called SPHY with a frown. SPHY was not there, so the office assistant answered the phone and said that he would contact SPHY as soon as possible. Wayne was helpless. After all, it was not the era of mobile phones, and communication efficiency was difficult to guarantee. He sat by the phone and waited, and read the investigation report again. The geocentric church was indeed not a serious section. They had other purposes for seducing believers to join. In order to ensure that more believers were attracted, they even prepared a promotion strategy of giving out free eggs. Down to earth and absolutely useful, who doesn't love free eggs? According to the investigation of the two detectives, the headquarters of the geocentric church is located in Enroard Town, only one street away from the town government hall. The high-level members of the sect enjoy many social privileges and are likely to control the important officials in the government hall. Some time ago, the geocentric church discovered a tunnel leading to the underground world and invited Professor Vincent, a geologist, and his team, hoping to use the professor's influence to carry out large-scale publicity. Unexpectedly, the professor was poisoned to death by his own students. The two detectives disguised themselves as believers and successfully lurked at the entrance of the underground tunnel. The place was tightly controlled and the two could not go deeper. They only marked the location in the document. The next day, Wesley suddenly disappeared. Who had realized that he was being followed? He used his excellent anti-reconnaissance ability to avoid the follower and successfully hid the investigation report. After that, Hood contacted Wayne and tried to get in touch with the London intelligence agency. The reason why only the intelligence agency was contacted was that this was a secret commission and contacting other agencies would only be coldly treated. Secondly, even if there was no cold treatment, Windsor's administrative efficiency was well known. Hood knew that by the time the intelligence agency received the news, his and Wesley's bodies would have grown hair. The intelligence did not specify too much, but emphasized the grand event 5 days later. The geocentric church organized a collective worship of believers at the entrance of the underground tunnel. Hood thought that there was something fishy about this event, and so did Wayne. He imagined a river of blood flowing in his mind, and anxiously waited for Heapy's call. He found a brochure in the interlayer of the investigation report, which was a printed publication of the geocentric church. The cover was a hollow earth model, drawing a simple underground world. Wayne raised his eyebrows, opened the brochure and read it quickly. He did not find any information about the Lord of the Void, but he smelled a strange breath between the lines. It was not magic, but a hypnotic instruction composed of text and graphics. Reading this publication for a long time would interfere with people's rational judgment. It's really a cult. Half an hour later, the phone rang. After Wayne answered it, he found that it was teacher Yuja, and his heart was finally put down. Usually, every time at a critical moment, teammates would fail for one reason or another, and he didn't want this to happen to him. Teacher, do you know the geocentric church and the Lord of the Void? What a mess, Wayne, are you believing in other gods outside without your sister's knowledge? On the other end of the phone, 11 Faye was heartbroken, with a tone that she would never give up after being pushed away. Wayne was too lazy to talk nonsense with her, and explained the cause and effect quickly. 11 Faye immediately became alert and warned, "Don't act rashly, the other party has great ambitions and is definitely not a small role. I will arrange someone to investigate immediately. You will be responsible for the reception and let the other party handle it." Wayne nodded. This is what he wanted. After hanging up the phone, Wayne picked up the brochure again and took a look, and asked the butler to strengthen the defense of the villa and expel any strangers immediately. FLA nodded, called 4 maids and gave them an order, so 2 sniper rifles were set up on the roof of the big house on the spot. The remaining 2 maids armed themselves in the armory, with ammunition belts wrapped around them, fully armed, and 2 machine guns were no big deal. Wayne. It's not that exaggerated, just be careful of strangers approaching. The heavy firepower brought Wayne a great sense of security, allowing him to calm down and continue to practice. When it was night, the phone in the villa rang, and a cold voice told Wayne that she was outside the villa, asking the sniper to calm down and not to hurt his own people by mistake. Wayne asked the butler to invite the guest in. The other party was a woman, but unlike her cold and elegant voice, she was bloated and could definitely be called severely obese. The woman had fair skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes, and a very good foundation, but it was a pity that she was fat and ruined everything. She looked round from the side and rounder from the side. She looked like a ball from far and near, high and low, and she silenced Wayne directly. Although it is wrong to judge people by appearance, did the teacher call the wrong number? Isabella. Wayne. Wayne extended his hand politely, shook the other's fingertips like a gentleman, and said politely, "Ms. Isabella, thank you for coming from London. It's been a hard journey. Please sit down and rest for a while. Just call me by my name. Also, I came from Frank Paris on the order of the priest." Wayne was stunned when he heard this. He specially transferred people from Frank. Is there any explanation? Indistinctly, Wayne guessed something. The teacher must have been excluded in London when he first arrived. Isabella was indifferent, didn't like nonsense, and spoke quickly. Wayne chatted with her for a few words and found that there was no common topic at all. He looked at the time and invited her to the restaurant for dinner. She came in a hurry and must have not eaten. Fortunately, it was not a big problem. The butler had prepared everything. At the dinner table, Wayne saw what a glutton is. When he was cursed, he certainly couldn't eat as much as Isabella. She licked the plate cleaner than a dog. The housekeeper prepared, but not fully. "Is your excellency really a magician?" Wayne was surprised. "Excuse me, are you cursed?" Isabella took the rice grains off her face and put them into her mouth one by one. "No, this is my magic." Restarting the myth. Author, Feng Chao Huang. Chapter 42. Isabella's stomach seemed to be a bottomless pit. She ate a lot of food, which was far beyond the butler's expectations. She was not fully prepared and the pace of serving food was intermittent. It has nothing to do with the stored ingredients in the kitchen warehouse. The Landau family runs a bank and is not short of money. Housekeeper Fula did not prepare enough chefs and the speed of serving food could not be compared with the speed of Isabella CD, which embarrassed the owner. Fula thought so, because of his mistake and not entertaining the guests well, the hostess and the young master were disgraced. Wayne didn't think so. He watched the entire Isabella DVD and was shocked. Living room. Isabella sat on the sofa and her whole body sank. Gentleman Wayne ignored the scene and took the investigation report of the geocentric sect and handed it over together with the promotional brochure. He first explained the identities of the two detectives. Wesley is from London. He is a well-known detective. He was secretly entrusted by an intelligence department to enter in Lord to investigate the geocentric sect and get to know the local people. Detective Hood. When Hood contacted me, Wesley's whereabouts were unknown. Hood realized that he was being followed, hid the document and contacted me. I've been unable to get in touch with Hood and both detectives are missing. Isabella listened quietly and said nothing during the whole process. After browsing the investigation report and promotional brochure, she frowned slightly. Insufficient information cannot determine the purpose of the Earth Center section. We cannot rule out that the gathering of believers in 5 days is a cover. Do you have the home address of the senior executive of the town administration hall? There is no address. If you want, I can ask the butler to prepare it. Wayne roughly understood what Isabella meant. The investigation report made it very clear that the Earth Center cult most likely controlled the town government affairs hall, and no one stopped them from handing out eggs on the street. Isabella only needed to find a town official. Political dignitaries may be able to extract more accurate information by applying the great memory restoration technique. If you don't get it out, find the next one. None of them knew anything about it, so they just followed the clues and used the town government to lure out a certain senior member of the Earth Center sect, mingle with them, and ask what the Earth Center sect was going to do. Only by knowing the other party's plan can we intervene and destroy it, otherwise we will just be wandering around headlessly. Hurry up, I'm going to go out tonight, Isabella said. Are you in such a hurry? Well, the intelligence agency of the Kingdom of Windsor is well known for its ability. I have heard a lot of jokes about them in Frank. They can detect that there is a problem with the geocentric cult. This can only mean one thing. The geocentric cult has been having problems for a long time. Isabella stated the facts without mercy. Is there a possibility that this is a stereotype you Franks have about Windsors? Wayne opened his mouth, thinking that although Isabella was subjective, she was not objective at all. The intelligence agency in Windsor was indeed very sexy. It is well founded and cannot be refuted. Wayne asked the housekeeper to collect the home addresses of important officials in the town administration hall as quickly as possible, remembering not to alert the enemy in case the Earth Center Church was prepared. At present, the Earth Center cult only knows that 2 detectives are investigating them. Wesley is missing, Hood is actively attracting firepower, and Wayne and Isabella are hiding in the dark. As long as they don't show up on their own initiative, they will always have the upper hand. Fool about and left, starting to collect information. As a Windsor native and a former senior agent working for the Windsor Intelligence Agency, he had a general affection for Isabella. He speaks too bluntly and is not tactful at all. In the middle of the night, Fula brought back 5 pieces of information, including the mayor and other 5 important town officials, including their home addresses, phone numbers, and mailboxes, as well as the names and jobs of family members. Furlaw was well prepared and seemed to have something to prove. Isabella browsed quickly and wrote down 5 addresses. She said to the housekeeper expressionlessly, "As long as you have the address, the information you prepared is too lengthy. The large amount of space is meaningless and it is a waste of precious time." Frat. He doesn't like this Frank. Isabella walked out of the villa and began a secret investigation that night. The disciples of the goddess of nature had many methods, especially gathering intelligence. When a hallucinogenic spore was planted, ordinary people could not resist at all, and they would say whatever they asked. Veronica had used this magic before. At that time, she was sealed due to the curse of magic. She could only make magic props and cast a simple version of hallucinogenic spores, that is, feeding mushrooms. Isabella did not ask Wayne to join the team. She received a call from He and received a total of 2 tasks. Mission 1, protect Wayne. Task 2, investigate the geocentric cult, judge the situation by yourself, destroy the geocentric cult or take Wayne away. There is not much time left for Isabella. She will collect intelligence tonight and find out the details of the Earth Center sect's senior leaders tomorrow morning. She will combine all the intelligence and choose how to complete task 2 as appropriate. Isabella didn't ask for it, so Wayne wouldn't take the initiative to join in the fun. He had to be self-aware. His joining the team wouldn't help, it would only hinder Isabella. The next day, Wayne got up early and faced the meditation with full energy. The process of meditation is boring, but the process of becoming stronger is joyful. In order to make himself happier, Wayne pretended to be a villain and used all possible means to plunder the 4 elements. He found the leading party, communicated information through the fire element, and found the 3 elements hidden near the big house and villa. Black hands, dirty heart. The heart is normal. The word heart is a pun. It is both a human organ and a derogatory adjective. It cannot be explained by coincidence. This is the wisdom of the ancients. You can always believe in the wisdom that our ancestors have summarized and passed down from history. Wayne believes in the wisdom of the ancients. Since everyone is heartless, he will not pretend to be a gentleman. He promised the fire element that as long as he can find the hiding place of the 3 elements of earth, water, and wind, he will never let everyone down. In this way, the boring meditation immediately became happy. As for the fire element, it is worthy of being the embodiment of desire. One by one, it is not ambiguous to betray its friends. Isabella did not come back the second night, nor the third day, and continued to be offline on the fourth and fifth days. Will she starve to death outside? Seeing that more and more geocentric believers were distributing eggs on the street, and the maids who went out to inquire about the situation came back with a basket, Wayne was a little restless. Tomorrow is the day for the geocentric church to gather. Why is there no news about Isabella? With such a large tonnage, there should be some movement when she hits the water. Wayne is a little unsure, so he calls the teacher Yuja. Sci-fi tells him to practice with peace of mind and not to question Isabella's strength. The latter is an experienced magician. She must have discovered something by going offline continuously, and is waiting for an opportunity to give the other party a fatal blow. Seeing that Sci-fi is full of confidence in Isabella, Wayne can't say anything more. He asks a few questions and continues his meditation. On April 2nd, the geocentric church held a grand rally at its headquarters. The politicians of En-Road town appeared at the ceremony, and the mayor also delivered a passionate speech. On the street, thousands of believers flocked in, cheers, applause, and cheers came one after another, and the warm atmosphere was once high. Many townspeople who were not believers also participated in the rally. On the one hand, there were many people to join in the fun, and on the other hand, eggs were distributed for free on the spot. The opportunity to get free eggs attracted many housewives. I heard that eggs were distributed per person, regardless of gender, age, or status. As long as they showed up, they could get 5 eggs. Many people came with their families. Outside the crowd, Wayne, wearing a black windbreaker, looked at the crowded headquarters of the geocentric church, pressed down the brim of his hat and walked towards the government hall. It was the last day, and he couldn't help it. If Isabella really met with an accident, wouldn't he be waiting for death if he waited like a fool? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 43. En-Road Town Government Hall. A 5-story building is the tallest building in the surrounding area. It is very suitable for observing the geocentric church headquarters across the street. Wayne walked into the government hall and calmly came to the rooftop. He had no obstacles along the way. No one asked him to show his ID. No one, just to join in the fun. Free eggs, civil servants are also greedy. Damn, how did the country become like this? Wayne muttered, took out the telescope and looked at the geocentric church headquarters. There were 4 2-story buildings, with an overall square layout, and each small building occupied a corner of the square. The small square in the center was crowded and lively, filled with believers who came to attend the rally. They were basically local townspeople in En-Road. The telescope lens was a little blurry, and he couldn't see too many things clearly. Wayne vaguely saw a few upper-class politicians in suits, who seemed to be standing with a bald man in white. Even if he was not the leader of the geocentric church, he was also a senior church official. Wayne put down the telescope, took off his gentleman's hat and flicked it, and the white dove jumped out. Wayne took out a few corns from his jacket pocket to feed it, and then released the white dove. He silently chanted a spell and covered his right eye with his finger. The dark right side of his vision suddenly brightened up, connecting the white dove, overlooking the headquarters of the Earth Center Church from a high altitude. The white dove flapped its wings and landed on a tree near the small square. Wayne observed closely and saw the true appearance of the bald man. The bald man was not young, with many wrinkles. The most striking feature was that he had no eyebrows, and his facial features gave people a gloomy feeling. The politicians in suits on the side were very respectful to the bald old man, bowed to listen to his teachings, and the restraint on their faces could even be called flattering. Seeing this, Wayne basically confirmed that the Earth Center Church used the magic of bewitching people to catch all the politicians in Enroad Town. Wayne calmed down and focused his sight on the bald old man's lips, eavesdropping on the conversation between several people by reading lip language. The original body's inherent skills. As Wayne continued to meditate, his mind became stronger and stronger, and his control over himself became more and more handy. In the process of tapping his potential, he constantly awakened some small skills. Rather than awakening, it is better to say awakening. Camouflage, reconnaissance, counter-reconnaissance, skilled driving of vehicles, fighting. When he was bathing in the bathtub 2 days ago, he found that he could hold his breath for a long time. He had not practiced it, but his body was proficient in water and knew many underwater skills. Lip reading is one of the awakened skills. Wayne has not practiced lip reading specifically. This skill requires practice makes perfect, and the value lies in the word experience, so even if he awakens the skill, he can only analyze a few words. Today is very important, Great Lord, Void. 2 days ago, there was an infiltrator at the headquarters. He has been detained. Maybe there are accomplices. Wayne was reading, and suddenly, the bald old man stopped, and the moment he looked at the white dove, he looked at Wayne at the same time. Wayne's heart trembled, and a strong mental shock swept along his sight. Very strong. But, compared with the world behind the gate of truth, it seems to be just that. Wayne has experienced the test of the starry universe, and his thinking and will almost collapsed. Compared with the crisis of almost zero sand value, the bald old man's sight has no lethality. Who are you staring at here? Believe it or not, I will take off my shirt, and a big eyeball will scare you to death. The white dove squatted on the branch, tilted its head and looked at the bald old man, with clear stupidity in his eyes, without a trace of wisdom. The bald old man retracted his gaze and ignored the white dove. He gave a few more instructions to be careful, happily joined the team of believers, and danced with everyone. He changed his face in a second, and his acting skills were amazing. At this time, he was so kind that everyone who saw him couldn't help but think of his old and loving father. The white dove stayed on the branch, curiously watching the believers below, and because of the sound of champagne cannon, it flapped its wings and flew away. Rooftop. Wayne put away the white dove, put on a gentleman's hat, and turned to leave the rooftop. 2 important pieces of information were collected. The geocentric church has magicians, the number varies, and the strength is unknown. At least the bald old man is better than him. An intruder was captured 2 days ago, Isabella is not dead, and the place of detention is unknown. What a powerful magician, but this is the result, not as good as me. What kind of infiltration investigation is this? He surrendered when he met her, and used his identity as a prisoner to lie down and enter the target's lair, and then the steel door couldn't be opened, and he couldn't get out of the small dark room. Wayne was full of complaints. If he had known that Isabella was captured earlier, he would not have waited foolishly, and directly asked the butler to arrange a luxury car to leave Enroad Town. It's not too late to leave now. Wayne stopped and stood in the corridor on the 4th floor of the municipal hall. Looking at the townspeople queuing up outside the window to receive eggs, he looked at them and shook his head silently. Forget it, rescue Isabella and give her another chance. It won't be too late for him to leave Enroad Town by car then. At the end of the corridor, 2 female civil servants in work clothes of the government hall came over, talking and laughing, one carrying a briefcase and the other holding a teacup. They were gossiping and discussing the feasibility of sneaking around to get more eggs. They didn't take Wayne's unfamiliar face seriously and simply ignored him as if he were a passerby. After passing each other by 2 steps, the 2 female civil servants turned around suddenly, one took out a pistol from her briefcase, and the other threw a teacup directly at Wayne. Wayne looked at the glass in front of him, as if he had eyes on the back of his head, and ducked to avoid the teacup. With a bang, the glass shattered, and the tea splashed everywhere. Gray mist sizzled on the wall, and the flesh mass similar to biological tissue spread rapidly, and in the blink of an eye, it covered the walls and windows. It looked like a starfish with 8 legs, each leg was alive, and the end of the leg was wriggling and stretching in all directions. The body was wet with a layer of yellow mucus, and the gray-white skin tissue was translucent, and the blood vessels under the skin and the organs wrapped in the chest cavity could be seen. Wayne's eyes shrank when he saw it. If he hadn't been on guard, he would have almost merged with this group of starfish. The moment he ducked to avoid it, he quickly moved away from the wall. Before the muzzle of the gun pointed at him, he pressed one hand on the ground and summoned a wall of earth to block in front of him. Earth escape solid liquid mixed flow velocity solidification technique. A 2-meter long and wide earth wall rose from the ground, not only blocking the sight of the 2 female civil servants, but also blocking most of the corridor, making them stand still and dare not attack rashly. In a few breaths, the damp and soft earth wall solidified rapidly. The 2 women heard the footsteps running behind the wall, and then they realized that they were caught in a delaying tactic. Without hesitation, they went around the earth wall and chased after it. A white dove flew over the earth wall. The 2 women looked subconsciously, but saw the white dove dropping bombs in the air, and with a snap, it splashed a white on the face of the female civil servant with a gun. Ah! The damage was not great, but it was extremely insulting. The female civil servant with a gun screamed and raised her sleeves to wipe off the stain. At this moment, Wayne, who should have run far away, suddenly came out from behind the wall. A closer look would reveal that his leather shoes were missing. He did run, and when he released the doves, he took off his shoes and ran back. Wayne was extremely fast. In a flash, he came to the gun-wielding woman, put his left hand together to form a sword, and shot a water arrow to blast the makeup on her face. Taking advantage of the gap in his vision, he swung his right hand with a fist. The force was heavy and hit the front armor. There was a muffled sound, and the woman's work jacket rippled. Her body lost balance and quickly retreated to the wall, and plunged into the soft starfish. 8 tentacles rolled up, wrapping up the woman and the pistol. In an instant, the corridor was filled with the sound of chewing. From beginning to end, the gun-wielding female civil servant did not have time to scream. The other female civil servant was still a little confused. It was too fast. She was frightened by her companion's miserable condition before she realized that she was facing a powerful enemy. When she realized that she was facing a powerful enemy, the whistling fist had already hit her. Bang! 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 Wayne punched the woman in succession, all of which were concentrated on her abdomen. The severe pain from the cramping of her stomach and intestines made her curl up on the ground, her clothes soaked with cold sweat, and she opened her mouth and gasped. "Where is the fat woman who broke into your headquarters? Tell me, where did you lock her up?" Wayne asked in a low voice, and his palms wandered all over the female civil servant's body to confirm that there were no hidden weapons. The female civil servant looked like she had just been pulled out of the water, with her hair stuck to her face. She glared at Wayne fiercely and said with difficulty, "I am always waiting for the master's call. I am proud to return to the void. Kill me, I won't tell." What a warrior! If I hadn't seen the virtues of the followers of the goddess of death, I would have believed it. "Ha ha, you are still tough." Wayne sneered, stretched out his right hand, and slammed it on the ground. Earth escape secret technique, buried in the wall. The woman was carried into the air by the rising mud. Just as she was puzzled, the mud wall solidified quickly, imprisoning her hands, leaving half of her body in front of the wall and the other half behind. What is this operation? The woman didn't quite understand, but soon, her whole face turned pale with fear, and her legs wrapped in a dress kicked up desperately. Her butt was slapped twice, and she heard a voice from behind the wall, "The lighting is just right at this angle, you can't tell, your house is quite nice." Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 44. The earth escape technique brought great anxiety to the woman. Under this pressure, she confessed almost everything. She didn't want to betray her husband, the mayor, the bishop, the dentist, the firefighter, the courier, and several other male colleagues in the office. Wayne? She looks average and has so many lovers. I think she is a good talker. She must be a good hand at shangzhouing. Who told you to say this? Answer me, where did you lock up the intruders? Wayne asked coldly. There is an underground prison at the Holy Gate. The bishop imprisoned the intruders and is going to sacrifice these blasphemers to the great king of the underground tonight, the woman replied quickly. What is the king of the underground? I don't know, it is very huge. A strong fear flashed across the woman's face. I don't know what she recalled. She trembled and became incoherent. The Holy Gate is the tunnel leading to the underground world. The entrance of the tunnel is located in En-Road town. The investigation report of the two detectives indicated the detailed location. It is very close to the headquarters of the geocentric church. It only takes 15 minutes to walk from the government hall. Originally, there was an empty lot there. The geocentric church purchased the land for the construction of a chicken farm. When the construction was more than halfway through, a bishop suddenly discovered a large crack leading to the geocentric world. Everyone believed that it was the Lord of the Void who appeared, responded to the devout prayers of the believers, and pointed out the direction for these lost people. Later, Vincent, a professor of geology, and his professional team were invited to enter En-Road town for a field investigation. The entrance of the tunnel, the headquarters of the geocentric church, and the government hall can be connected in a straight line. The coincidental layout is by no means accidental. It is very likely to be some kind of special magic circle. This is a very important information. Wayne kept it in mind and prepared to rescue Isabella first, and then convey the information to the other party. One failure can be forgiven. A strong dragon cannot defeat a local snake. Wayne is willing to give Isabella another chance. The powerful magician recommended by the teacher will not fall into the same pit twice. As for the lady embedded in the wall, this is a woman who is very loyal to love. In order to keep her innocence, she confessed everything. Wayne was moved by her reserve and knocked her out with a knife. He removed the earth wall, dragged the lady to the next office, and locked her in a file cabinet. There was a starfish-shaped tentacle monster in the corridor. Wayne was helpless and tried to burn it with fire magic. Unexpectedly, the effect was surprisingly good. The eight-legged starfish has a sticky surface, which looks like a marine creature. It looks juicy and watery at first glance, but it is more flammable than catkins. It burns to ashes in an instant when it comes into contact with the flame, leaving only a mass of black liquid on the wall. It looks a bit like crude oil. Luckily, there are no bald eagles in this world, otherwise, every one of you would be labeled as a terrorist. Wayne barely handled the scene, but he couldn't leave no trace. That was enough. He hurried to the chicken farm to rescue Isabella before the Earth-centered church noticed the two female believers were missing. Wayne lowered his hat and hurriedly left the government hall. He had a hunch that the bald old man saw through the white dove and sent two female believers to confirm the situation without making a sound. Wayne prepared for the worst. He had been exposed. The rescue time was urgent and the action had to be fast. Chicken farm. Generally speaking, farms for broiler chickens and laying hens are built in the suburbs, as far away from the town as possible, but the Earth-centered church has someone in the town government hall, and the mayor has become a loyal dog, so it is not surprising that it is built in the town. There are members of the Earth-centered church guarding the gate. They all wear white hooded robes with rough fabrics, many threads on the cuffs, and a hemp rope tied around their waists. The style of clothing is very similar to that of ascetics. Wayne did not rush in, but stopped a geocentric truck at the corner of the street. The driver in a robe poked his head out and said angrily, "Dude, I'm busy hauling goods, you'd better have something to do, otherwise I'll make you have something to do." "It's true that I have something to do." Wayne stretched out his fist, clenched his 5 fingers as if he was holding something, and said seriously, "I heard the voice of the Lord of the Void. He gave me a holy object and asked me to present it to the bishop as soon as possible. I must not miss this sacred day today. Why didn't you say it earlier? It turned out to be one of us." With a common belief, the driver's attitude was obviously much kinder. He poked his head close to Wayne's fist and held his breath and said, "What is the holy object? Can I take a look, please, just one look?" "Of course." Bang. Wayne climbed into the driver's seat, put on the driver's white robe after a while, started the truck and drove straight to the gate of the chicken farm. The free eggs were in short supply, and the townspeople were enthusiastic. Many people pretended to have just arrived and lined up several times. This was the 5th time the truck driver had traveled back and forth between the rally site and the chicken farm. The geocentric members guarding the gate did not notice anything wrong and opened the door to let Wayne in successfully. The truck stopped, and the believers who had been prepared carried baskets of eggs onto the truck. Wayne locked the door and took the initiative to join the team carrying the eggs. "Hurry up, they are in a hurry over there." He was unfamiliar but diligent, and no one doubted his identity. After working for a while, Wayne covered his stomach and said palely, "Damn, where is the bathroom? I have a stomachache and can't hold it anymore. Holy crap, stay away from me." The splatoon can only be viewed from a distance and not approached. The believers quickly pointed out the direction and asked Wayne to go and come back quickly. If the transportation of eggs was delayed, the higher UPS would blame him and no one would have a good time. Wayne shouted that he was coming, and ran all the way with the keys in his arms. His funny look caused a burst of laughter, and the air was filled with joy. The believers like this new man, he is a happy nut, even if they don't know his name. Wayne disappeared around the corner in a few quick steps, raised his hand to grab a handful of air, and after sniffing, he didn't find Isabella's scent. It's understandable. Firstly, it took too long and the smell would have dissipated long ago. Secondly, Isabella is a magician, so she must have a way to hide her scent. Recently, Wayne has strengthened his thinking through meditation, and has improved his control over his sense of smell and supernatural sensing. Especially the former, he can basically send and receive freely. Good thing, he can continue to deceive himself that the magic girl's fart smells good. Wayne entered the chicken farmhouse through the side door. Surprisingly, there were not many laying hens. It can't be said that there are few, but compared with the number of free eggs that the Earth Center religion continuously provides, the number of laying hens in the chicken farm is undoubtedly pitiful. Unless this version is updated, every laying hen is a 007 level fighting chicken. Wayne didn't understand very well. When he saw a believer pulling a trolley and dragging baskets of eggs out of the warehouse, he immediately pretended to pull up the trolley next to him and walked in. This is a warehouse with a huge area, with high cement walls and only a few windows at the top. Lights hang from the roof, 2 assembly lines rumble, and eggs are transported along the conveyor belt one by one. Dozens of believers packed boxes numbly, their eyes were lifeless, they could only move mechanically, and they were as tireless as puppets on strings. Wayne couldn't see the end of the conveyor belt, the black cloth hanging from the machine blocking his view, but he smelled a familiar smell. The smell of 8-legged starfish. Very strong. The source of the smell is at the end of the conveyor belt. Wayne's eyes narrowed suddenly and he quickly rushed to the machine. After lifting the black cloth, he saw 2 huge tentacles. Slippery. Squirming. The ends of the tentacles open up and lay translucent eggs one after another. When exposed to light, the surface solidifies and looks exactly like an ordinary egg. The speed and efficiency are enough to make the laying hen suspect that chickens are born. Boom! Wayne felt chills all over his body, his scalp felt like it was going to explode, and his stomach was so full that he almost vomited it up on the spot. Damn it, are you going to turn the whole town into monsters? Wait, I remember the maid came back with a basket of eggs. Could the omelette this morning be? Vomit. Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 45. Wayne retched twice, but nothing came out. He wiped the saliva from his mouth with his sleeve, and his disgust for the geocentric church reached its peak. Regardless of whether it was a great or small righteousness, from now on, Wayne and the Lord of the Void would be irreconcilable. Wayne wanted to ignite the tentacles immediately, but he didn't dare to act rashly without rescuing Isabella. He guessed that the tentacles were the so-called Underground King. Judging from the size of the tentacles, it was unknown where they extended from, and it could be judged that the size of the Underground King was very huge, which coincided with the intelligence collected before. The Underground King. The entrance to the underground tunnel. It was no coincidence that both were in the chicken farm. The chicken farm, the geocentric church headquarters, and the government hall are all connected, and it is obvious that they have been premeditated. Isabella is right. Windsor's intelligence agencies can see that there is something wrong with the geocentric church, which means that the geocentric church has had problems for a long time. Wayne gritted his teeth in hatred. The tentacles that lay eggs indicate that the king of the underground is under the chicken farm. Once this big monster moves, the whole town will face a catastrophe. The strength of the geocentric church's magician is unknown. He must rescue Isabella, and only the latter can deal with the geocentric church. The entrance to the underground tunnel is located behind the chicken farm. Compared with the intricate terrain underground, the ground entrance and exit are not conspicuous. A hastily built large factory building blocks the abyss crack and is guarded by 4 believers. Once someone approaches, they will be stopped immediately. Wayne saw the holsters at their waists. Time is running out. He has no better way and can only bite the bullet. You, stop. It's not night yet. You can't go in. I know, but the situation has changed. Our people have been attacked. I am here to interrogate the prisoners on the orders of the bishop. I must find out the whereabouts of my accomplices, otherwise I can't explain to the bishop. Wayne glared at the other party coldly. You, open the door and lead the way. But the bishop's order is that no one is allowed to go in. I really can't let you go in. The guard looked embarrassed. Wayne's tough attitude made him feel guilty. He was so arrogant that he was obviously the bishop's confidant. And Wayne also brought the bishop's order. His forced obstruction caused the interests of the Earth Center Church to be damaged. Will the bishop punish him? The guard's momentum weakened by 3 points, and Wayne immediately became tougher. He grabbed the guard's collar and said with a fierce look in his eyes, "Asshole, if we didn't all believe in the Lord of the Void without reservation, I would definitely report to the bishop to sacrifice you to the king of the underground tonight. Hurry up and open the door. You can't bear this responsibility." Wayne's toughness and arrogance overwhelmed the guard's doubts. He didn't dare to continue to stop him. He waved his hand to let his companions open the factory door and took the initiative to lead the way in front, trying to calm Wayne's anger. Being a younger brother is like this, not seeking merit but seeking no mistakes. In one word, difficult. The complexity of the underground tunnel exceeded Wayne's imagination. There were tunnels everywhere. At first glance, he thought he had entered a mine tunnel. There were wires and lights along the way. At every intersection, there were believers standing guard with guns. After walking for a few minutes, the guard knocked on the wooden door in front, and a secret passage opened, and boundless darkness rushed towards Wayne. He stood on the edge of a cliff, with a bottomless black abyss below him. There seemed to be some giant beast crawling in the darkness. Whenever the wind and waves whirred, large patches of blue light flashed brightly and darkly. The light spots not only existed below the abyss, but also covered the cliffs. Wayne took a rough look and vaguely saw traces of tentacles wandering. The size of the king of the underground was larger than he imagined, with far more than 8 tentacles. Compared with the starfish in the government hall, it was definitely at the ancestor level. A plank road was built on the edge of the cliff, and a fence was installed to prevent the believers from falling into the abyss. Wayne silently gave a thumbs up to the construction team and quickly followed the guards in front. The plank road was about 500 meters long, and at the end it turned to the hollowed-out rock wall. This was a huge underground square with strict guards, which was more stringent than the defense of the geocentric church headquarters. If it weren't for a familiar face leading the way, Wayne would not have been able to break in. In the center of the underground square, a circular pool was built. Fist-sized pieces of rubble were piled up into a pyramid, and a golden statue was placed on top. The statue was not big, only about 10 centimeters high. It reflected the light and emitted a breathtaking light. It was very dazzling, definitely real gold. Wayne looked at it carefully, but the light was so dazzling that he could not see the true appearance of the statue. He could only see a distorted human figure wrapped in tentacles. "Lord of the Void, please allow me, a humble and insignificant believer, to give you the most sincere praise." The guard bowed from a distance and saluted the location of the statue. Wayne hurriedly followed suit, and sang a humble hymn. As soon as the voice fell, Wayne seemed to sense the statue's response to him. A whisper sounded in his ears, and the complex voices of weirdness, evil, holiness, purity, etc. merged together, making every listener fall into a trance. Bad news, SAN value dropped wildly. Good news, Wayne has a solid foundation, it dropped, but it's the same as if it didn't drop. Again, after experiencing the destruction of the gate of truth, ordinary mental pollution can hardly shake his mind and will. The guard was obviously polluted, and his expression showed that he was devout and crazy in his belief in the Lord of the Void. Wayne followed suit, winking, grinning, half of his face twitching, and his eyelids twitching wildly. This skill must have been caused by at least 10 years of cerebral thrombosis. Wayne was not acting at all, too real to be suspected at all. He followed the guard to the east side of the square and entered another secret door. This time, there was no detour. At the end of the passage was the small dark room of the prison. 2 believers guarded the prison. When they learned that Wayne was ordered by the bishop to interrogate the prisoner, they immediately let him go. The defense was very loose. It was human nature. It was subjective consciousness. Since they had come to this place, there was no reason for him to be an intruder. He must be one of them. Wayne walked into the prison with a candle. There were not many prisoners, about 10 or so. Each of them was given a wooden stake and hemp rope, and they were arranged neatly. Wayne ignored the unfamiliar faces, but there were 2 faces that surprised him. Hood. Wesley. The 2 tilted their heads and muttered in their mouths. Like other prisoners, they were mentally polluted and a little confused. "Are you 2 still alive?" Wayne was surprised that the 2 were lucky. He felt that good people would be rewarded. Referring to successful cases, he would definitely be blessed in the future. But Isabella was not seen. All the prisoners were male, and none of them were of outstanding weight. Ahem. Wayne clenched his fist and coughed, and said to the guard next to him, "What's going on? Where are the female prisoners? Where are they locked up?" The guard smiled knowingly, "You are late. The female prisoners have been dealt with and used to sacrifice to the king of the underground. No new source has been found yet. As promised, you have already found a way to die." "Nonsense, who asked you this? Am I that kind of person?" Wayne narrowed his eyes, put the guard on the death list, and said coldly, I mean the intruder 2 days ago, a very fat woman. You wouldn't be so hungry that you would deal with her too. Are you remembering it wrong? There was no fat woman who broke in the past 2 days. The only intruder was him. The guard pointed to Hood. We only caught him. His name is Hood. He is a detective in Enroard Town. The old guy is good at hiding. He almost slipped away. Wayne was stunned. It was Hood who was caught 2 days ago, so, where did Isabella go? He was a little unbelievable. What if, he meant what if Isabella was not caught? He worked so hard, reconnaissance and infiltration, what on earth was he trying to achieve? Sif's words rang in his ears. Isabella was an experienced magician. She must have discovered something by going offline continuously, and she was lying dormant waiting for an opportunity to give the enemy a fatal blow. Did you really not catch a fat woman? Wayne raised his hand and patted his forehead, trying to rescue her. Please be sure to tell him that you caught her. Not only did you catch her, but you guys also dealt with her. Indeed, not. The guard shook his head firmly, and then said, maybe, but that is an important prisoner known only to the bishops. I am not qualified to know, and I will not be imprisoned here. These are all sacrifices tonight. Wayne nodded, thinking about how to take the prisoners out safely. The wooden door opened, and a voice came over. About that fat woman, I may be able to give you an answer. This is a middle-aged man in a linen robe, with a burly figure and full of energy. He wore a hood and could not see his face clearly. The swaying candlelight reflected 2 rows of teeth that were white and cold. The corners of his mouth, which seemed to be smiling, rose slightly, as if praising Wayne for finding this place. Of course, it was more likely to mock him for falling into the trap. Wayne's heart trembled and he sensed the danger. Bishop Sean the guard bowed and saluted, bending his waist very humbly. Wayne followed suit and saluted, trying to get away with it. The geocentric church has 4 bishops and 1 archbishop. The 5 are the highest authority in the geocentric church. In Wayne's imagination, they are all powerful magicians. Suddenly, one of them blocked him in the underground nest. Wayne's heart sank to the bottom of the valley, and he estimated the possibility of embedding the other party into the earth wall. Not very good. Fusion and transformation with the Book of Greed. Wayne touched the pistol on his waist, borrowed the magic props for self-defense from the maid, and had a little more confidence in his heart with the artifact of the Church of Science. Within 7 steps, the advantage is mine. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 46. Go out, you have nothing to do here. Bishop Sean waved his hand, and the guard bowed his eyebrows and left. Wayne held the handle of the gun, and the atmosphere in the dark prison suddenly became solemn. At this moment, Bishop Sean laughed and said slowly, you thought of coming here to rescue me and successfully sneaked in here. It really gave me a big surprise. Wayne frowned and watched in surprise as Bishop Sean pulled down his hood. There was a mushroom growing on his forehead. Red umbrella, white pole. What kind of magic is this? Believers of the goddess of nature can't get through mushrooms, right? Wayne complained in his heart, and he probably understood who the other party was. Isabella successfully sneaked into the crypt tunnel and controlled Bishop Sean, one of the 4 bishops. Teacher Yuji was right, she was really lying dormant and secretly preparing a fatal blow. Wayne curled his lips and had some complicated thoughts. It was good that Isabella was fine. With his thigh in front of her, he could lie down and wait for the matter to end with peace of mind. But what's going on with this faint sadness? Next time if you save someone without conscience and actively put yourself in danger, I will be a hammer. Bishop Sean continued, you came at the right time. I am trying to get in touch with you. Come with me. I have something to give you. What about them? Wayne pointed at the prisoners in the prison. These dozen unlucky guys will be sacrificed tonight. They are all here, so please save them. It's easy, but it doesn't violate the principle. I will arrange for you to leave with them later. Sean led Wayne out of the prison, through the underground plaza, and into his private office. The moment the door closed, Bishop Sean remained motionless as if he was offline. Isabella walked out of the back room of the office and said coldly, "You shouldn't have come." "But I'm already here. The high priest told me that you are a cautious person. I hope today is just an exception and you will continue to be cautious in the future. There is no shame in being timid. Only timid magicians can live long." Isabella was expressionless. Said a lot. She was very grateful to Wayne for taking the risk to come to the rescue. Regardless of whether it was successful or not, whether it was necessary or not, she received this heartfelt message. In addition, the high priest was right. This disciple was not afraid of sacrifice, had noble moral character, and was worthy of development. Isabella took out a document bag and entrusted Wayne to take it out of the town of Inlord. The documents inside were encrypted and could only be opened by disciples of the goddess of nature who were stronger than her. Isabella sneaked into the geocentric cult for 5 days. Through controlling Bishop Sean and conducting her own investigations, Isabella learned a lot of secrets of the geocentric cult. The information involved must be sent to London. Wayne looked grim. The mission was simple and he was happy to stay out of danger. But he couldn't leave. Teacher Yuja had cast a restraining spell, with the villa as the center and a radius of 50 miles. He couldn't send the information to London. Isabella was silent for a moment after hearing this. She did not challenge the authority of the high priest and tried to unlock the restraining magic on Wayne. "Don't try. If you can't do it, you can't do it. Give the document to the person you trust most and ask them to send it to London." In the entire town of Inlord, Isabella only trusted Wayne, who was his student. This alone was enough for her to trust Wayne without reservation. She was also willing to trust the people Wayne trusted. Wayne nodded, and the butler fool's monocle flashed before his eyes. Without giving it a second thought, the most trustworthy person around him at the moment was the butler. But first, Wayne had to make sure of one thing. Will people be controlled by the eggs laid by the underworld king after eating them? Wayne explained his concerns, not only the housekeeper and maid, but also the possibility that he had eaten free eggs, which was one of the potential risks. "Are you eating raw eggs? Cooked, fried eggs? Then it'll be okay. My God, this is the best news I have heard today." Wayne breathed a sigh of relief and asked curiously, "What is the Underground King? A magical life cultivated by the Earth Center cult, or a pet of the Lord of the Void?" "Neither. The Underground King is not a life form from the God's chosen continent. It comes from the star space, also known as the Void World and the Big Universe." Isabella Popular Science said, "The star realm is a restricted area of life and an ocean of truth. There are crazy magicians wandering in it, as well as magical beings and dependents created by gods, but these are outsiders, and the natives of the star realm are called the starry sky beast. The behemoths in the starry sky are full of strange things. Their weird shapes and abilities are beyond human imagination. The magic world has not yet made complete statistics. How many races there are, why they exist, and who created them are all unknown. We only know that once a being stays in the star realm for a long time, it will be found by these starry sky beasts and become their hungry food. The huge size is the only similarity between the starry sky beasts. For example, the Underground King you see, the race is called Blue Ridge Parasite, and its reproductive ability is terrifying. It was incompletely summoned by the Earth Center cult, and it is less than 1,000th of the whole body." Isabella briefly described the concept of the Underground King, broadening Wayne's knowledge by the way, and finally said, Processed blue spine eggs can be regarded as food, but if these eggs sense the call of the mother worm, it breaks out of its shell in an instant and parasitizes the living body closest to itself. The mother insect will call her babies tonight and parasitize the entire town, Wayne said with wide eyes. This is just part of the Earth Center cult's plan. After parasitizing the entire town, Archbishop Ivan will complete the sacrifice and summon the complete Blue Ridge parasite. This will be used as a stepping stone to transport the eggs of the Blue Ridge parasite to the entire god. Choose mainland. What the hell, they still want to distribute free eggs all over the world. Wayne was shocked. The doubts in his mind were answered, but more doubts arose. Why does the Earth Center cult spend so much effort to please their own believer, the Lord of the Void, so as to gain the power of the Void? No, the Lord of the Void is not a god. He is a legendary mage who has lost his mind. All his actions can have a purpose or not. Isabella's words were astonishing, and she continued, a magician who loses his mind will degenerate into a puppet of desire, and the legendary magician is no exception. The statue in the center of the square is him. His body and mind have been eroded by desire, and it is difficult to call him a puppet. He is human. Wayne seemed to understand, and asked the key question, is the legendary mage in Lordtown? Isabella shook her head. No, the legendary mage has gone crazy. The fire of life is like a candle in the wind and will dissipate at any time. The legendary mages who have lost their minds will follow their instincts and leave the God's choice continent and wander around the star universe. They will gain the knowledge they crave most and at the same time accelerate their own demise. According to Isabella's speculation, Archbishop Ivan got the idol from nowhere and gained powerful power from it. His mind was contaminated by the idol, and he fabricated lies about the underground world, single-handedly creating the current geocentric religion. Isabella has dealt with a similar situation. The unlucky ones who picked up the idol thought they were protected by the gods, and the sudden powerful power gave them the illusion of being invincible. As you can imagine, the result is that you follow crazy beliefs and eventually become a part of the madness until your emotions are completely stable. Take those prisoners and leave. Find a safe place to hide. There will be chaos tonight. Do not enter the town before dawn. Isabella said, when I complete the task, I will find you after dawn. Sister, what you said is like going back to your hometown to get married after the war. Flag is not established. Wayne's eyelids twitched as he saw the scene of Isabella being lit up with a sky lantern, and hurriedly took a mouthful of milk to save her life. Suppose, for example, you didn't complete the task and didn't come to me after dawn. Isabella looked at Wayne steadily and said coldly, I will find you in another way. Then you better not come. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 47. Isabella's words sounded unreliable, but she was a professional, and Wayne had no right to refute. Moreover, Isabella did not assign him a life and death mission, which was easy and risk-free. Wayne liked this arrangement very much, and left directly with the documents in his pocket. In the air, pollen that could not be detected by the naked eye floated, confusing the members of the Earth Center Church to lower their IQ to the lowest, which made Wayne walk out of the factory easily. Isabella issued an order through Bishop Sean, and the believers dragged a dozen prisoners to the chicken farm garage, threw them on a truck, and handed Wayne the keys while filling up the oil. The power of magic made Wayne both grateful and disappointed. Looking at these sleepwalking believers, we can see that magic is too unfriendly to ordinary people. Whether it is the Archbishop or Isabella, they can easily control their minds. Wayne was glad that he took this path. He was not an ordinary person, and he was disappointed that he was not that powerful. If possible, Wayne would like to be a high and mighty magician, dominating all living beings with a wave of his hand. No, I read the wrong line. Wayne would like to be a hero, silently waving his sleeves, saving all living beings and hiding his merits and fame. For the nth time, Wayne was more eager for power than ever before. The eyeball sunburn on his chest slowly glowed, and his flesh and blood squirmed as if it would break apart in the next second. The Book of Greed responded to Wayne's desire. Don't suppress your desire. At the same time, a ray of light was emitted from the golden statue placed in the center of the underground square. This is a typical case of not suppressing desire and leading to self-madness. He withdrew his eyes from Isabella and put them on Wayne. On the passenger seat of the truck, a palm-sized twisted statue slowly took shape. At the chicken farm, the jet driver never came back, and a truck of eggs could not be transported. The believers were almost crazy, wondering if the driver had drowned in the bathroom. If so, you'd better drown in it. Wayne drove the truck out of the chicken farm, ignoring the truck full of eggs. Halfway through, he waved his hand, and a white dove flew into the car window with a hat in its mouth. He drove to the highway outside the town, stretched his hand out of the window and gestured, and a black car slowly approached. Butler FLA and 4 armed maids were sitting in the car. Wayne handed over the file bag and asked FLA to drive to London. This was Isabella's hard work, and it must be delivered to London and handed over to Sci-fi. At the same time, he called the teacher Yuja again, and the assistant answered the call again, saying that he would contact the high priest as soon as possible. Busy, busy, busy. Wayne rolled his eyes and had to return to the villa. Isabella must have talked to Sci-fi on the phone. Looking at the bright side, the Earth Core Church made such a big move, and London could not ignore it. Perhaps a magician army has entered the town of Enrord. As long as they are not on the way to the train, it's fine. Master Wayne, aren't you leaving? Fula frowned, and he was inclined to let Wayne leave with the file bag. I wanted to, but the teacher wouldn't let me. Wayne shook his head. I can't let Isabella fight alone, it's too ungentlemanly. Although it's unlikely, I might be able to help her if I stay. You are an excellent gentleman with noble and perfect character. Fula Ilahal is honored to serve a master like you. Fula praised, handed the file bag to a maid, and asked her to drive to London immediately. Outsourcing tasks layer by layer is an old tradition of the Landau family. Fula insisted on staying. As a professional butler, he would not abandon his master and leave alone at a critical moment. He explained his value to Wayne and had reasons to stay. Fula knew the terrain of Enrord town like the back of his hand, from the streets and alleys to the sewers, and was proficient in various drainage ditch cornering techniques. He was confident that even if there was an army of soldiers laying a net, Wayne could still be able to confuse the enemy in the sewer. Sewer? Wayne was skeptical. What size can the sewer in Enrod town be? It's about the same in London. Let's do this. I'll ask you about this skill when I return to London. I promise, I will do it next time. FLA smiled slightly. The drainage system in Enrod town was built by the Landau family. 2 drawings were used during the construction. I know several secret tunnels, one of which is just under the villa. My father-in-law is really rich. The tunnel warfare was arranged in advance. Did he know that a war would happen? Or do capitalists of his level crave war? A maid left with a file bag, and the housekeeper FLA stayed. The truck drove away from the bustling town and entered the villa estate. The big house is not within the scope of the town. The lawn in front of the house is empty. There are 2 heavy machine guns mounted on it. With the gathering point overlooking the sky, it can be called a copper wall. All kinds of supplies were fully stocked, not to mention holding out for 58 days, one night was more than enough. Although the possibility of being surrounded was small, and the possibility of being captured was even smaller, Fula still made full preparations. He asked the maid to activate the mechanism in the basement of the big house to check whether the tunnel was unobstructed to ensure that Wayne could evacuate at any time. The underground tunnel of the big house connected to the town of Enrord, and it was also the center of the forbidden magic, which made it convenient for Wayne to turn in all directions. He thought about it. With a strong wall and many ways to go, Even if Isabella knelt, he could safely wait for the arrival of the Queen's sister teacher. There was nothing to be afraid of. By the way, butler, the eggs that the maid brought back haven't been eaten yet. Wayne thought of the hidden danger and was ready to extinguish it immediately. Master Wayne, the basket of eggs has been disposed of. Disposed of? Why? Wayne was surprised. The butler did everything flawlessly, as if he had the ability to predict the future. Is he really that professional? The Landau family has a special procurement channel, which is exclusively supplied and strictly controlled. For example, your favorite potatoes, each one is carefully selected and then transported from London to this place. FLA looked as if it should be so. Civilian ingredients are not allowed to be served on the table, let alone free eggs, which are not worthy of your noble status. Wayne? Well said, don't say it next time. Civilians can't listen to this. I can't help but look for street lights. The three maids took the prisoners off the truck to prevent these unlucky guys from being stuffed with eggs and suddenly going berserk in the middle of the night. Wayne followed suit and asked the maids to drive wooden stakes in the lawn and tie them up tightly. It's not as good as prison, at least it can shelter from the wind and rain. Unlike now, there is a whole barbecue grill. Hood and Wesley are still confused, and the other prisoners are the same, tilting their heads and mumbling. Wayne couldn't help, and each of them sent a hand knife, brushing the experience points of sleeping magic, and avoiding the nagging in his ears, which is a win-win situation. Master Wayne, is this your pendant? I found it on the passenger seat. FLA handed the shrunken statue to Wayne. Wayne was brushing the hand knife experience, and he was very diligent and reaped a lot of rewards. Hearing this, he took it casually. Boom. In an instant, there was a rumble in his mind, and a familiar whisper rang in his ears. Lost, I heard your appeal. You hate your weakness, you crave power, you crave strength. Take it, this is the power you crave. Wayne's eyes were gray, his mind seemed to be dragged into a different space. The statue in his hand was burning like charcoal, the four elements kept pouring out, disturbing the balance in his body at a nearly crazy speed. No, the Lord of the Void is here. Wayne's face changed drastically, and just as he was about to throw away the shrunken statue, the Book of Greed suddenly opened its gluttonous mouth. Drop. Like a drop of water falling into a dry river or lake, only a little watermark was moistened on the riverbed, and then it was gone. Wayne. What's going on? Is this power too weak? Wayne was stunned, and the other side seemed to be stunned too. After a while, they increased their strength and sent an even more exaggerated number of four elements. On the dry riverbed, the area of the watermark expanded, a full 10 times larger. The size of a fingernail, no more. Master Wayne. It's okay. Watch these people. Tell me if anyone wakes up. I'll go lie down in the pavilion for a while. Wayne swallowed his saliva and quickly went into the pavilion to lie down. The statue in his hand burned again and again, and sent the four elements for free again and again. Although it was far from filling his life essence, it was faster than his hard meditation and the crazy plundering of the Book of Greed. Wayne knew that it was wrong to do this. There would be no pie in the sky. If there was, it would be a trap. The Lord of the Void was definitely not a good person. He must have a plan for giving benefits. But he gave too little. Who are you looking down on? You want to lead people to fall with such a small benefit. Give more, otherwise it will be difficult to do things for you. Wayne held the shrunken statue tightly, using it as a medium, and his palm touched a certain element space, and got the power he had always dreamed of. A certain will hidden in the statue estimated Wayne's potential, and was excited to see him create miracles again and again, constantly exceeding expectations. With this excitement, the passage of the element space immediately shrank a circle. The Book of Greed was very dissatisfied and complained to Wayne. Wayne was also dissatisfied and took the initiative to merge with it. Wayne, today it's 50-50, 5 for me and 5 for you. Book of Greed, okay. The invisible tentacles passed through the statue and directly entered the elemental space. The tentacles rushed forward and violently broke the door to open the passage to the limit. They threw away the middleman statue and launched a crazy plunder of the four elements. The fire element took the lead and cried and threw himself into the arms of the big eyeball. At this moment, the statue was horrified to find that it had lost control of the space gate. Restarting the myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 48. The statue lost control of the space channel. It tried to take it back and expel the tentacles, but was helpless due to the massive impact of the four elements. On this side, the tentacles were plundering frantically, and on the other side, the fire element led the charge. From the perspective of an observer, no one side was passive, or in other words, it was a two-way rush. Statue, the outsider was actually me. The four-element light spots, which were so huge that they could not be described, continuously passed through the space channel. The huge number caused a qualitative change, and the impact was terrifying. If this was a flood discharge, the statue could still control the gate of the space channel at the beginning. How much Wayne could get depended on how much the statue was willing to give. Now, the gate has been completely destroyed. Before Wayne's life constitution is satisfied, this flood discharge will not stop. In the course of basic magic, earth, fire, water, and wind correspond to the essence of human life, which is a prerequisite for igniting the hexagram to become a magician. If the vast and boundless world is regarded as a life, earth, fire, water, and wind are the cornerstones of the universe. They construct the world, stabilize the space, are the foundation of all things, and are the key core of the universe's life and death. The statue does not want to lose its elemental space. From the surprise and ecstasy of seeing Wayne at the beginning to the anger and madness now, it roars and swears to tear Wayne into pieces and take back everything that belongs to him. Wayne didn't hear it, and it probably doesn't matter if he heard it. Why are you yelling so loudly? Go find the Book of Greed. Wayne and the Book of Greed merged into one, releasing his desires to the fullest, and his desires were satisfied. No matter how dangerous and terrifying the front is, he will not stop plundering. There are too many four elements stored in the elemental space, and the quantity is large. The progress bar of Wayne's life essence slowly rises, breaking the initial inability to touch the bottom, rising from 0% to 1%. At the four corners of the cover of the Book of Greed, the four slightly larger eyeballs of khaki, golden red, azure blue, and turquoise gradually faded from gray, and the awakening of the Book of Greed took a step further. Wayne had to thank the Lord of the Void. The Book of Greed allowed his life essence to reach an extremely exaggerated level. Even if he had thousands of tentacles, even if he meditated day and night, it would take him 10 or 8 years to satisfy his life essence. It's different now. 2 or 3 months is enough. Rounding off, Wayne has struggled for 30 years less. Wayne, Lord of the Void, I don't want to work hard anymore. So, regardless of whether the Lord of the Void has other plans, the benefits are real. With such a great lack of virtue, it's not too much for Wayne to kowtow to the other party. Wayne? He feels great. The strengthening of the life essence brings about the growth of magic power, and at the same time, it is accompanied by the growth of thinking. He is full of power, and the sudden strength makes him look down on everything and believe that he can do anything. It was so big that it felt like it was floating. It felt like even if Isabella came, SPHY could knock her down with one punch. Wayne knew it was an illusion, but he was still ecstatic. He held the statue tightly and refused to let go. In order to ensure that the artifact would not be lost or stolen, he decided to keep it close to his body. Crash! Wayne's chest moved, and the black vertical crack opened. A pale tentacle with wrinkled veins stretched out, rolled up the statue and dragged it into the black crack. The vertical lines merged, and his chest was no different from that of an ordinary person, except for an eyeball-shaped sunburn mark. At first glance, his tanning suit was quite cool. The will in the statue didn't know what Wayne had done. He couldn't see it, but he knew that the light was far away from him, and there was darkness in front of him. This was a bottomless abyss, without space and time, and even without the four most basic elements of matter. The abyss longed for everything, anything, as long as it could fill itself up, whether it was matter or energy, it would accept everything. The statue was a little panicked, not knowing what Wayne was, but he was very sure of one thing: Wayne indulged his desires, was crazy, paranoid, and reckless, and was destined to perish because of madness. In order to save the elemental space, the statue decided to help Wayne. "Since you want to die and don't know how to restrain yourself, then I will give you the knowledge that all magicians covet. He, boy, accept this knowledge with gratitude. This is also the power you desire, they are the essence of the universe. Accept it. When you gradually know everything, you will understand what magic is, what God is, and what the true face of everything is. You don't need to be afraid of madness, only madness can understand everything." Buzz buzz buzz. The golden light was so bright that the statue burst into boundless brilliance, like the sun, spreading in the form of wave-particle duality. This knowledge includes all the lifelong learning of a legendary wizard, as well as the truth knowledge of the astral space. It poured into Wayne's body in an instant, and its destructive power was comparable to the opening of the gate of truth to an ordinary person. Anyone can obtain knowledge, but whether or not they can bear it is not within the scope of consideration of the gate of truth. As a magician apprentice, Wayne did not even light up the initial hexagram, and he was not much different from ordinary people. If nothing unexpected happened, he could not bear it. The Book of Greed trembled, and stretched out its tentacles excitedly, plunging all the light into the body. The Book of Greed came alive, and on the cover, the dense veins and blood vessels were dilated, and the eyeballs trembled and wanted to open. The sun, moonlight, and nature, the three eyeballs began to wake up officially. With nature as the most, the eyelid slowly opened, and the gray-white eyeballs could already move. The big eyeball in the center looked over, staring at nature and death, calling on the moonlight and death to wake up as soon as possible. As the four eyeballs of earth, fire, water, and wind at the four corners of the cover gradually brightened, the scene that Wayne had imagined came true, and he found the correct way to open this book. The big eyeball in the center is the core of the Book of Greed, that is, Wayne himself. The densely packed small eyeballs on the cover represent the complex truths in the universe. The more you understand and learn, the brighter these eyeballs will be. At the same time, Wayne can use these truths. He will not fall into madness because he knows too much, let alone become a puppet of desire. The Book of Greed is the greatest madness and desire in the world. As long as I am crazy enough, I will not be crazy. The statue was silent and wanted to swear. He had never seen such a crazy person. At this time, he completely realized that Wayne was special. People's physiques are not the same. Some people are destined to climb that unreachable peak when they are born. He envied and envied. He was full of hatred and desire for Wayne. Headquarters of Geocentric Church. Banners were drawn and ribbons were flying. Believers spontaneously released white doves representing peace and beauty, pushing the atmosphere of the rally to a climax. The real climax came from the speech of Archbishop Ivan of Geocentric Church. The bald old man ended the singing and dancing with the believers, stood on the podium with a cheerful face, raised his fist and waved it passionately. The Geocentric Church is a pragmatic section. We do not encourage wars of faith, nor do we care about wars, and we do not want to have conflicts with any section. We only care about whether everyone is well fed and clothed, whether they can feed their children, and whether their children can develop healthily physically and mentally. Our master, the Void, once sent down an oracle. The Geocentric Church pursues peace all their lives, and so do every believer. We follow the guidance of the Master of the Void, and never say empty nonsense. We will serve everyone seriously. I, Archbishop Ivan, today on behalf of all the Geocentric Church, promise to the believers and townspeople present that you are all my family. As long as the Geocentric Church exists in Enrolled Town, my family will not be hungry, and everyone will have endless eggs. Ivan waved his fist, the believers and townspeople waved their hands, and the mayor took the lead in applauding. Everyone got what they wanted, and everyone had a bright future. In the sky above the rally, cheers of "Long live the Archbishop." Ivan humbly pressed his hands together. He only needed to live 100 years. Only the Lord of the Void was worthy of eternity. At this moment, Ivan heard the call of his master. "My servant, the Son of God has come. He has lost his life and has gone astray. Bring him to me immediately, at any cost. I will personally point out the direction for him." Ivan opened the red name vision and saw the red beam of light landing outside the town from afar. That was where the statue was, and where the Son of God was. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Restarting the Myth. Author, Fengchao Huang. Chapter 49. The Son of God has come. Archbishop Ivan exclaimed, hurriedly ended his speech, and quickly left the crowd's sight. His performance was a bit out of control, but the crowd did not realize anything, and continued to sing and dance, celebrating the best day in the history of Enrolled Town. Ivan entered the headquarters office and ordered all 4 bishops to be present. After waiting for a while, only 3 bishops came. "Where is Sean? Why didn't he attend the rally?" Ivan frowned. "Sean rarely showed up in recent days. He is at the Holy Gate. Tonight is very critical. He doesn't want to make a mistake at the last minute." One of the bishops came to Sean's rescue. Ivan nodded and reluctantly accepted this explanation. He had taken 99 steps, and he couldn't make a mistake in the last step. However, compared with cautious excuses, Ivan would rather believe that Sean was flattering the Lord of the Void and guarding the statue at close range to win the favor of the Master. He, being smart. "The Master has conveyed the latest mission to me. The Son of God has come. No matter how humble and pious you are, your status in the church cannot catch up with me, let alone be compared with the Son of God." Ivan was quite jealous. He was busy for the Void Master, but his status was not as good as a Son of God who came from heaven. For a while, he felt heavy on his head, as if his old love was compared with the new love and was abandoned by the Master. Even so, Ivan was still loyal to the Master. He suppressed the loss in his heart and said to the 3 bishops, "The plan has changed. We have to start the sacrifice ceremony in advance." "Why? Is there an enemy invasion?" The 3 bishops were puzzled. "There is indeed a little mouse, but it is nothing to be afraid of. If we leave it alone, it will not cause any big waves." Ivan thought of the mysterious man who was spying on him. He was a beginner in using the messenger bird. He did not take the little fish seriously and said, "Just now, I received the oracle from the Lord of the Void. The Son of God has come, near the town of Enrolled." "What? The Son of God has come?" The 3 bishops were ecstatic. Although they did not know what the Son of God represented and what status he had in the church, the Lord of the Void personally sent down the oracle, which was undoubtedly a good thing for the Geocentric Church. They and the Geocentric Church share the same prosperity, and their beliefs and interests are closely linked. They all have a bright prospect for the coming of the Son of God. Ivan took in the looks of the 3 people and became even more jealous of the Son of God who descended from the sky. He did not express it, but said bluntly, "Don't be too happy too soon. The Son of God has just arrived and is confused about himself and the future. He has gone astray and caused the displeasure of the Lord of the Void. The Lord of the Void has ordered that the Son of God be brought to the Holy Gate as quickly as possible. He will personally point out the direction for the lost Son of God. X3. The three bishops blushed and were so excited that they were incoherent. The Lord of the Void was going to descend today, and they were honored and even flattered to be able to witness the scene with their own eyes. Mark, you follow me to the Holy Gate, sacrifice prisoners to awaken the King of the Underground, and wake up her children. Kent, Melville, you two go and bring back the Holy Son, no matter what the process is. Ivan gave the order, shared the Red Name's vision, and reminded, listen, the two of you, the order of the Void Master is to do whatever it takes, even if today's sacrifice fails, the Holy Son must be brought back. Kent and Melville bowed their heads and accepted the order, with a little bitterness on their faces. The Holy Son has a high status and will have great power in the future. It is hard to say whether he can sit on an equal footing with the Archbishop, but he will definitely be able to shit and piss on their heads. The Archbishop does not want to be a bad guy, does not want to offend the Holy Son, and pushes them out to do dirty work. What's so great about it? When the Holy Son comes in the future, the Void Master will only talk to him, and you old guy will lose power sooner or later. X2. Wait until I hold the thigh of the Holy Son, and then you will be in trouble. X2. Kent and Melville turned and left, following the direction indicated by the Red Name, and drove towards the villa. In order to show respect for the Son of God, 30 devout believers were specially selected to form a ceremonial guard of moderate size, and the luxury cars of the mayor and dignitaries were borrowed. On the other side, Archbishop Ivan and Mark came to the chicken farm. They entered the bishop's exclusive passage from the back door. They did not need to drill the underground tunnel and took the elevator directly to the underground square. The square was as usual. The guards were on duty. Everyone was busy and had their own work. Ivan first offered a sincere prayer to the statue in the center of the spring, and then ordered the guards to bring up several prisoners in the prison. There are no prisoners. Transfer to another prison. Where can we get another prison? A police station. Ivan was very surprised. When he learned that it was Sean who gave the order, he was furious and asked the guard to pass on the message. He wanted Sean to explain his actions in front of the statue of the Lord of the Void. The leader is like this. It is impossible to walk, even if it is next door. The subordinates must come to see him in person. Soon, Sean, wearing a hood, walked out of the office, bowed his head and walked quickly to Ivan. Facing the Archbishop's scolding, Sean admitted his fault and didn't dare to say a word back. Seeing Sean's sincere attitude of admitting his fault, Ivan said no more and did not ask where the prisoners were transferred. A few insignificant little people, Sean killed them, there was no shortage of sacrifices in the underground square, just grab a few guards and throw them down. Sean, I listened to the oracle of the Lord of the Void, the Son of God has come. Get ready, we must start planning in advance, start the sacrifice ceremony immediately, and awaken the children of the King of the Underground, Ivan ordered. Sean's body froze, and he asked in surprise, who is the Son of God? How come I have never heard of him before? This is not a question you should consider. Start the sacrifice immediately. Do you understand? Ivan said in a strong voice. Archbishop, I am not questioning your order, but I have also listened to the oracle of the Lord of the Void. He said this. Sean raised his head and slowly pulled open the hood covering his head, revealing the mushroom with a red umbrella and a white stem. Ivan and Mark were stunned for a moment. Before they could speak, Sean held his head and wailed in pain. His body lost moisture rapidly, his skin shrank suddenly, his face was dry like bark, his eyeballs protruded, his gums were exposed, and his hair quickly turned gray. Instead, the mushroom on his head expanded rapidly, cracked with a bang, and countless green fine dust splashed around, drifting to every corner of the square like smoke. The sudden change happened in an instant. Bishop Mark was horrified and opened his sleeves to block in front of him. The distance was too close and too fast. He had no time to cast magic defense and could only retreat. Bang! Mark was kicked on the buttocks and plunged into the green dust. The dust seemed to have life and drilled into his skin through the pores of his mouth and nose. He screamed as he was parasitized by spores. Vine plants grew on his body. Every green leaf stretched out and took away his vitality. In just a few breaths, Mark dried up into a mummy. He was drained of all nutrients by the green plants. He and Sean broke their bodies together and fell to the ground and turned into dust. Dust and green leaves, old life breeds new life. Yvonne's eyes shrank suddenly. Fortunately, she stretched out her feet in time to let Mark stand up, otherwise he would have the same fate. Even so, Yvonne was also stained with a lot of spores due to the close-range sneak attack. A section of his sleeve was stained green, and his entire right arm began to be paralyzed and vines began to grow. Around the square, many guards stained with dust screamed and rolled on the ground, fertilizing with their own lives, turning the underground square into a garden full of greenery. Without hesitation, Yvonne put his left hand together to form a knife, and his 5 fingers wrapped around the wind blade to cut off his right arm. At the same time, he opened his mouth and blew out a storm, sweeping away the green smoke. The storm swept the whole place, either blowing the spores to the corners of the walls, or rolling them to the tunnels around the square and blowing them directly out. This was a hard time for the guards around. Many of them escaped by luck, but before they had time to thank the Lord of the Void for his protection, they were hugged by the spore dust falling from the sky, and the scene was staged as turning into spring mud to protect flowers. Outside the square, 7 or 8 unlucky guards on duty were unable to dodge and were carried away by the through wind in the tunnel, screaming and falling into the abyss. Bang bang! Like the rhythm of a heartbeat, patches of blue light bloomed, and a huge tentacle climbed up the cliff. Hearing this voice, Yvonne's gloomy face improved slightly. The enemy had been dormant for a long time, but he was not unprepared. It was not easy to interrupt the sacrifice ceremony. He covered his right arm that was bleeding profusely, and shouted coldly, "Come out, heretic who believes in nature, the king of the underground has awakened, come out to accept the trial, and welcome the arrival of the master of the void with this town." Restarting the myth. Author, Feng Chao Huang. Chapter 50. Yvonne covered his broken arm and roared loudly. His words were provocative and insulting, blood dripped from the broken arm, and his face gradually turned pale. No one responded. Isabella didn't know where she was hiding. She didn't show up on her own initiative, and silently waited for Yvonne to die of excessive blood loss. The entire underground square, including the underground tunnels that extended in all directions, was planted with green plants by Isabella. The magic plants carefully cultivated by the magicians of the natural church can grow rapidly in the harsh environment of lack of water and light. The green plants will secrete pollen that cannot be observed by the naked eye, which will rise with the wind and spread to every corner of the underground cave. These pollens are not fatal. They mainly attack the nerve center, causing the smoker to have delusional hallucinations, interfere with judgment, make his thinking fuzzy, and make his emotions easily excited. The previous guards and the current Archbishop Yvonne, they all inhaled pollen to a greater or lesser extent. In other words, Isabella had already activated the venue card that reduced the intelligence of all members, and turned the Earth Core cult's nest into her own home ground. She herself was not disturbed and had the full advantage. She didn't have to do anything, just wait. Isabella was not satisfied with waiting. The battle between magicians was best resolved quickly. The longer it dragged on, the more variables there would be. The ground of the square bulged, and vines raised their heads, spitting at Yvonne like venomous snakes. The vines had no independent consciousness, but under Isabella's control, it seemed that each one was independent. They did not move forward in a uniform pace, up or down or at a tricky angle, or forward or backward or in groups. The unsystematic offensive made Ivan exhausted, unable to grasp the rules, and even unable to analyze Isabella's hiding place. The wind blade cut off the vines continuously, and more vines emerged from the ground. Cutting off one head would grow two heads. Ivan lost a lot of blood and her reaction became slow. A vine entangled her ankle, and then a windmill hit the wall heavily. The vines rushed up, hundreds of them gathered together, like a high wall, rumbling and rolling over. Suddenly, a flash of red light flashed. The blood dripping on the ground suddenly turned into a fire snake, and the expanding flames greedily devoured oxygen. The orange-red ball exploded with shock waves, burning all the vines entrenched in the square into ashes. The flames drilled into the ground, and it was difficult to eradicate like a bone ulcer, and soon swept away the roots spreading underground. Not only that, the flames also burned away the hallucinogenic pollen in the air. Ivan slowly stood up, tore off her white robe, revealing a slightly shriveled old body. At the broken arm, white flesh and blood squirmed, and a sticky boneless tentacle grew. I don't know what means were used, but the pale face gradually improved, and was not affected by excessive blood loss. I thought I could lure you out, but I didn't expect you to be so timid. The disciples of the goddess of nature who claim to be righteous can only attack from behind and use some shameful tricks. Ivan was talking nonsense, and finally laughed coldly. I know you are stalling for time, and so am I. When the king of the underground wakes up, she will summon her children. At that time, the whole town will spontaneously call the name of the master of the void. You can't wait for anything except death. The effect is still average. Isabella doesn't seem to care about the life and death of the townspeople. Even if Ivan describes the scene as hell on earth, she is still as steady as a turtle and doesn't move at all. Ivan saw this and silently chanted a spell. The sound of the spell gradually became louder, from the initial subtle whisper to the deafening one. The magic frenzy rushed out, outlining a complex magic circle pattern under Ivan's feet. Tentacles drilled out of the magic circle. At first, they were illusory projections, and they turned into entities after contacting the four elements. The earth rumbled, and in the direction of the abyss outside the square, several huge tentacles with a diameter of more than 100 meters crawled towards the top of the cliff. If we don't stop it and let the underground King Fox do whatever it wants, the whole town of Enralda will face a catastrophe. On one side of the square, the earth and rocks rolled and bulged, and a huge flower bud as tall as two people drilled out of the ground. Two wind blades crossed and shot out like arrows, piercing Ivan's body. The remaining force not only pierced through the thick rock wall of the square, but also cut off a tentacle that was climbing up. Ivan's body was cut into several pieces by the wind blades and fell to the ground in pieces, but he did not die, and there was no blood or organs or intestines splashed on the cut surface. Groups of wriggling white foam grew and spread, seamlessly merging his fragmented body with the surrounding tentacles, turning him into a strange and bizarre creature. Looking closely, Archbishop Ivan at this time looked quite similar to the statue. The buds opened layer by layer, and Isabella jumped out. Looking at Ivan, whose body was twisted, she frowned slightly and said unsurely, "Life magic. There are many kinds of life magic. Usually, only the legendary wizards with clear mind can master it. Ivan's can be considered reluctant, but her aesthetic style that deviates from the mainstream is contrary to humans. There is a kind of beauty that makes everyone vomit. Rather than saying it is life magic, it is better to say that the mind has been subjected to excessive knowledge, and the essence of life is unbalanced, causing itself to be completely polluted. You know life magic." Ivan looked at the fat woman opposite, and did not laugh at her bloated and obese body. She said sinisterly, "That's right. From your appearance, you have already mastered some life magic. I see your inner desire for knowledge. Maybe one day, you will get a perfect body like me." The perfect body in Ivan's eyes refers to the limbs and head being separated, and each part is connected to a tentacle. The wriggling tentacles looked like blooming white-green plants, bearing fruit, with the head on the left and the butt on the right, hands here and legs there. Boom! With a loud noise, the underground square shook. Ha ha ha, because of your cowardice and fear, you only cared about protecting yourself, giving the underground king time to reach the surface. Ivan laughed loudly, but you don't have to blame yourself. The Void Master will forgive your offense. After tonight, everyone will merge into one, and the townspeople will forgive you. Merged with the tentacles, Ivan's hands and feet began to become tentacles, and his facial features gradually blurred, as if a tentacle had eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. The most outrageous thing was that his brain was taken out separately and completely exposed to the air. Isabella watched coldly, and Ivan smiled and laughed, and suddenly found something wrong. Boom! There was another loud noise, and the air gradually became hot. Ivan turned his head and looked outside the tunnel. The fireball expanded and the fire wave burned. The loud noise was not caused by the underground king breaking out of the ground and coming to the surface of Enrod town, but by the tentacles of the underground king hitting the trap, causing continuous explosions, and the tentacles were engulfed by flames and turned into ashes at a very fast speed. Swish! The wind blade swept across, cutting the blooming tentacles into a bare stubble like cutting melons and vegetables. The brain, which was taken special care of, exploded directly. It was just out of the skull, warm. Roar, roar, roar. Ivan's eyes were blank, and he let out a meaningless roar. The wriggling tentacles were stitched together, and the 2-meter diameter meatball stretched out 4 tentacles and crawled towards Isabella at a very fast speed.